Hello, welcome to all the lovely viewers to this beautiful sessions of the Conscious Circle of Excellence. And today we have with us the Lynn Hope Thomas from UK. We are running the sessions actually from quite some time, and I am from the Soulful Exploration, and we are the luxury wellness company. We are organizing the sessions to run through across the globe. The many speakers are there who are wanted to they can impact to the your life by way and mean where you can thrive. So that's the reason that we are connected to the all the lovely souls. And in this series today we have with us Lynn Hope Thomas, and she's from UK. As I said, she's an MSc in Challenge Facilitators, Business Analysis, international author and speakers, driven by her personal challenges with experiencing loss. She was studied with Dr. John Demartini and is trained in helping the guide individuals and group through the effective transformations. Well, the track records in the business analysis, the program management methodology, she combined the transformations method to bring the result to leaders and their workforce. And the guess the what the topic it's in this pandemic, it is the challenge for the every the leaders today who thinks that they can change the world. And the topic is the setback as leaders, overcoming setbacks as leaders. So here with you, Lynn, stage is all yours. Thank you, and please rock the stage.
Thank you very much, Dipankar, for inviting me to speak on this topic. Heraclitus said that the only thing that is constant is change. And COVID-19, more than anything in our lifetime, is proving that that is actually the case. So as leaders, we're faced with overwhelming changes happening all around us. So what I wanted to do is share with you, because here in the United Kingdom, we've gone through the COVID-19 for the past year. So when I think about what is happening currently in India, it's shocking, and we know we've been through probably only a fraction of what you're going through, but we have been through those challenging times in this past year. So what I want to look at is what changes to expect in the environment with yourselves. And then I want to take a look at your emotional well-being barometer, which is being able to tell when maybe it's getting a little bit too much, things where you might need to take action in order to make sure that you're tip-top as a leader. You're going to have, if you've got employees working for you, they're going to go through a whole range of emotions. And so not only are you going through your own personal experience of pandemic and the changes that are happening, you're also having to guide other people through that as well. And then I just want to look more at tools and techniques. I want to share with you some of the experiences that I had last year and how I got through them and what I used. So let's start taking a look at some of the changes to expect. One of the obvious ones is the restriction, being placed in lockdown, being told that your freedom is not the same anymore. You've got to stay indoors. That was the first thing that hit us in the UK, and it was almost like disbelief, almost amusing, like we didn't really know what it all meant, or we just trusted our government that that was what was the best thing for us. Now, depending on where you sat in that, whether you were a key worker, some people carried on working whilst others just had to remain indoors. and of course we all had to wear the masks. And across the waters in Italy, we were getting to see, numbers of people dying, which wasn't good, quite scary. And then we'd get these scenes in the evening where residents would come out onto their balconies, and there would be policemen singing in the street to the applause of people in the homes because they'd not been able to come out. And we started to replicate that. We started to have hand clapping for NHS on a Thursday evening. Somebody started it, and you could go outdoors and you could hear the claps from way down. I only live in a small place, a small town. I'm sure in the cities, you'd hear people clapping and cheering for the NHS. But what was happening was a whole range of emotions. Some people, the changes that came about were like they started to homework. So people in businesses were exploring hybrid working. Others immediately, if COVID impacted on the business, they were obviously having to look at their financial plans to make sure that they could, what they needed to do, whether their business was going to survive or not. And then looking at the government to see what support was in place there. But of course, other changes that you can expect is that within your own family life, being stuck at home, if you've got children, can be very stressful, especially if you're trying to still work at home while the children are running around. Also, people face issues where normally they wouldn't see their partner. So in their close relationships with their partner, it was a good thing. And for others, as I know through my work with domestic violence, that increased, domestic violence cases increased through the roof. So the way it impacts people, you've got to be aware that anyone you're working with could be going through any of those scenarios. And then of course there's the loss, and that can be overwhelming. I mean, I had something from Anu saying a gentleman had lost 22 members of his family in India. So one can just simply cannot comprehend the kind of trauma that person must be going through. Here in the UK, we had a lot of loss. And I think the saddest thing about it was that you couldn't be with your loved ones. There was nothing that you could do. You're not allowed into the hospital. I know recently my father went to hospital, and yeah, we weren't allowed in even now, even though now we understand more about protecting ourselves from COVID, and all we started the vaccination programs. So loss is one of the hardest things that anyone can ever face, but loss comes in many forms. And for some people, they immediately lost their jobs. For some, they lost their income with the business. For some, they've lost loved ones. So there's an awful lot of people in society now going through grief, and if they're lucky, they've got support. Otherwise, they're going through emotions that they may never have experienced before, or anything like it. So it is quite serious. And then for others, you've got carer duties. There's this thing called long COVID. So even though people have survived COVID, it's left them very tired, worn out. And so you might suddenly find that you've got duties that you never had before, where you've got to care for a family member. These are all real. So when we talk about changes as a leader, very often there's those immediate business reactions. And when we first go into something like this, a pandemic, the cortisol and the adrenaline kicks in, and as managers, we want to be seen to be leading, We want to be doing the right things for people. And that places us in very difficult situations because we absorb so much of what may be happening to our workforces or our employees. And of course, there's, personally, you could have experienced a loss yourself and you're still having to go into the workplace and provide support for other people. So of course, what happens, it just amplifies all those emotions that are happening in your life. And basically, it's like, I don't know whether you've seen the cup of, like, there's a cup of emotions, and once it starts to get packed in with all those different things going on and it gets too full, when your cup is full and it starts to brim over, then you start to get some warning signals that the body starts to tell you that things are getting a bit too much. So what do we do? How do we counteract the impact of all that stress? And studies have been done, and it shows that that it's like a curve of mental health and well-being. And what they're finding is that people have in the first sort of lockdown which we had, of course, they were, the adrenaline was there, the cortisol, and they fine, they're managing as best as what they can. And then we went into a second lockdown, and that as it's like a second wave and a second toll of strong emotions on people. And so over time they've had all this adrenaline and cortisone in their bodies, and that has gone on for longer than what is normal. It isn't, those chemicals in the body are there to help you survive and to survive, but they're not meant to be going on for a long time. So what can happen is that when you then get a break and you go to slow down, it catches up with you a lot quicker than you think. You go into like a slump. It's like, because your body has just been functioning so hard and so fast for so long, supporting so many people, and you've forgotten about yourself. As I was saying, the difference is another source of stress in a way, because depending on your situation, you could be in a much better, although everyone's impacted by COVID, some are actually quite a lot better off than others. I think about half the people in the UK have actually been financially better off because they've not spent as much money as they would normally, because they've not been going out, and bars and restaurants and everything has been shut down. And I can see them fitting into a quadrant. You've got people where financially they were covered for COVID and they are in a low risk COVID area. So, and it is quite interesting in that category. You've got any government bodies, you've got like politicians, the councils, any utilities, even people who are already on benefits. The restrictions for them are that they can't go out, but fundamentally their income has not really been impacted too much. People on furlough, they went down to an 80% in their earnings, which is quite significant, because most people tend to spend quite a lot of their earnings. So to drop 20%, then it does mean that there has to be cutbacks. But unlike others, for example, key workers and NHS, these people are under an awful lot of stress. They're not under the financial stress, but they actually were putting themselves into COVID environment, which in itself is, it can be stressful. I for a while, I worked in one of the NHS hospitals here in Manchester, and I recall a doctor coming through, a young man, and he was having a panic attack. And I think it was just the fear at the time, because it was so unknown. Having seen people struggling and dying from COVID, then the fear of actually catching it was very, very real. So yes, so much going on. On the other side, you've got people who instantly lost their jobs, and people in the hospitality industry, the theatre, the musicians, the artists, people with small businesses. And I fit into that category myself. The overnight, my income dropped 95%. So although the government put measures in place to suspend mortgage payments, it didn't actually provide any financial, or very little financial support if you were a limited company. So that was a very real scenario for 3 million people in the UK. And again, probably if you're in a workplace or an employer, these are aspects that you might not even see or understand, or even know that there are people out there going through these kind of difficulties. And then you've got people who their income has changed, and they're in high risk COVID areas. So for them, they're under intense pressures. So people like taxi drivers, maybe getting the odd job. I don't think they did. I think they totally had to stop taxiing people around. And also a lot of smaller self-employed people at first were affected. So there's a whole range of impacts that COVID and the changes can have on people. And as a leader, the more aware that you can be, and you can look out for the signs and symptoms and what people are saying, then you're able to take action. But primarily, I'm concerned for you as a leader, for you personally, because unless a person can look after themselves, they're not going to be able to look after anybody else. And with that emotional cup, if it keeps filling up and filling up, when it overspills, then it's not just a slow thing. It could be a very quick thing, that one day you're fine and then the next day you're not fine. So we need to make sure that we do have tools and techniques that can help us to get through a situation like that. If I move on now to the emotional well-being, I just called it emotional well-being barometer. It's like, how do I know whether or not I need help, or I've got to make a change or do something different? So you need to check in with yourself, like your thoughts impact on your actions and your behaviours. So it is quite normal during lots of change to to be maybe negative in your thoughts about outcomes and what things might happen. So we need to be able to check in on what's going through our mind and be able to make a switch on those thought patterns, because very quickly negative thoughts are going to bring your energy levels down. Generally, when people are experiencing stress, they may suddenly, especially when you're confined to your house, and I think we were allowed out initially in the first lockdown. We were in the United Kingdom, we were allowed out just for one exercise each day, and you started to really value exercise because you could only do it once a day. So I do very long walks, and people would cycle that was quite popular. But again, it's so important that you're able to tune in to where you are, both physically and mentally. So physically, you have to look after your health and well-being, from just simple things like the food that you eat, to eat healthy, to make sure that you're getting your vitamin C, to make sure during stress that that you drink plenty of water. I think I'll just have a glass actually. Yes, that you keep hydrated, because stress actually dehydrates. So make sure that you're eating well. At home, there's a tendency that you keep going to the biscuit cupboard, and some people comfort eat, and then you start to put on weight, and then that takes you into a downward spiral. So change what you eat, you know, change it to eating something that is healthy, like raw carrot, or maybe some raisins, but find alternatives than the biscuit tin, because you know, you put on weight, then you just start having negative thoughts about how you look, and that's not going to help. So for whatever thoughts or impact the stresses are having upon you, you've got to find numerous ways of how you can counteract that. And it doesn't have to be in big ways, it can just be small. So for example, you know, if you're sat working at the computer, check in how you're feeling. Are you starting to get stressed in the shoulders and the upper back? Are you getting, you know, stressed in the lower back? If so, stand up, move around, do exercises. Go, if you have a garden, you're fortunate, because during COVID and lockdown, people in flats couldn't even go outside. I mean, that would just drive me crazy. But I could at least go into the garden for my lunch and sit outside where I'm getting sunlight. On the walks, I've done a lot of walking this past year, and my dog loves it. I noticed so much outside in nature, and have been, you know, lucky to witness, you know, calves being born, fresh calves out in the fields, because I live out in the country. So it helps you to get in touch with nature. So what I did for myself was I switched what my expectations of what I was going to get out of life. So knowing that there was the restrictions, and for example, on my walk, as I went round the village pub, Rishi Sunak was doing Eat Out to Alcohol, which was giving loads of money and vouchers to keep the pubs and restaurants open, which, looking back, I think it just transmitted more COVID. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't afford to pay for a meal because I'd got no income coming in. So me and my daughter would walk past the pub, and everybody would be sat outside eating and drinking, and it was like I felt like a pauper. I couldn't do that because financially I'd got to make sure that I wasn't spending money. So yeah, everybody's going to be in a different situation, but whatever your situation is, you need to set your expectations according to whatever that you're in, so that you aren't disappointed. When we have high expectations, then we're open for disappointment, or to upset ourselves really, or to get sad because what we're expecting doesn't happen. So that's something which I actively did. What you need to do too is, I call it the emotional wheel, and you can look up on the internet, you can easily Google it, emotional wheel. You can find an emotional wheel, and regularly check in with what emotions that you're feeling. And I can honestly say that if I just describe, if you don't mind, if I describe a little bit last year. So my business, normally I would get contracts. Those contracts fell, they just totally disappeared. I probably applied for over 300 roles, desperately trying to find income to survive. I would do anything. And whilst I had interviews, nothing came of them. And it was a really, really difficult time. I found a support group on Facebook for the 3 million who'd been excluded. And it was such a relief, because all of a sudden I found my tribe. And that's something that I recommend to people. Always find your tribe. On social media, they're out there, and you can find people who are just like you. So it was validation of what I was going through, because at the time I recognized it, because personally, as a child, I went through loss and grief, so I know what that feels like. And I just had this realization that, oh my goodness, this is like going through a loss it was like on a weekly basis. My emotions were like this. They were up, down, up, down. I was sort of beating myself up, feeling really bad. It was extreme. And the difficulty as well was hearing stories, which it's not good, but I mean, some people, they found it so difficult to cope with all those emotions that sadly they actually took their own lives. So that really is the raw end of this pandemic, when people feel so desperate. And that's the thing I don't want. I don't want people to feel like that. So what I started to do was I realized that I needed to work on myself. And so I did put in mechanisms in place, and I'll talk about those shortly, as to how I got myself through the awful year of last year. But the thing is, I survived, and I'm thriving now, and it's good to get back. And this is the thing, is that change is temporary. No matter how long it appears to go on for, it is temporary, and you will come out of it. So other emotions that I've noticed, particularly with the group of people that I was in, there was a lot of anger, rage. Verbally, they were expressing it. The vitriol towards the politicians who were trying to help us and support us. Even myself, I felt so really angry, like towards the Chancellor. How could he just exclude taxpayers who paid tax all their lives, and in a pandemic just ignore them? We didn't exist. I found that extremely difficult, and I know a lot of people do. And it made me realise, through the work that I've done as a facilitator, that I needed to work on that, to really to understand another side to what's happening, and why I was experiencing the changes as I did last year. So things don't have to be so extreme. For most people, they are going to need to tap into different tools and techniques that are going to get them through each day and maintain a balance in their mental health and their physical well-being. So your first port of call with tools and techniques is always going to be your family and your friends. It's important to talk about what you're going through and share it, because you know what? You're not going to be the only one. In fact, most people, it's the same. It's the same in every family, the emotions that they're going through. So make good use of your family and friends. In fact, contact them all the more. We've got the mechanisms now with Zoom, Microsoft Teams, to check in. And that's also something as a leader you can do with your teams in your workplaces, is make that contact and talk more, talk to them about how their situation is, understand what your employees might be going through, because that builds up great rapport. Not only will it make you feel better, but it will also make them feel better that there is concern there for them. You've got family and your friends, then picking those healthy lifestyles. I'm not saying, okay, gym's closed down, walking. You know, you might not feel like, I've been walking 5K in the morning. You don't have to walk 5K. Just get out and walk a little bit. Walk as much as what you can. Don't beat yourself up that you're not, really fit. And you see these joggers go by. You don't have to be jogging. Just doing some walking and getting fresh air, even just sitting outside, is better for you. So take a look. It's good to have a routine when change is going on and we're unsure and there's lots of uncertainty. What we like is to have some certainty. So don't expect to get that from the news. I don't listen to the news. I mean, I do through my phone. I do pick up bits of what's happening, but I don't listen to it intently. I don't even watch the television because I feel it's just an indoctrination. I'd much rather just get the dog. I'm not too far from a beach, and take the dog to the beach. But find a routine of what you do when you get up in the morning. It's so important. Like set little goals for yourself during the day. Set times where you treat yourself to maybe a special nice little coffee or a juice, or maybe where you, I don't know, eat an orange and just enjoy and savor that orange, just to feel, appreciate every day and the life that you have got, because it is so precious. And COVID-19 really it really shows us that, as we see families that have lost. In fact, last year I lost a friend, one of the most beautiful people that I know. It just seems so cruel. And you know what? She was such an angel, promoting that we all need to really be helping each other. And yeah, I think most people probably know of somebody who may have, lost their life during COVID. So yes, a routine is really important. And then the other one is like laughter. It's the simplest thing. It gets rid of toxins. It's very healthy for you. You can do yoga laughter. Look it up, Google it. But laughter. So again, with your family, your friends, try to see the funny side of things. I know when there was lots of social media jokes about like lockdown and what people were doing, jokes about how people's alcohol consumption had gone up, but laughter is a great way of relieving stress. So then that actually brings me on to more serious overwhelm. And everybody reacts differently. And as leaders, we always want to be seen to be at the top of our game. But then circumstances can change. And you need to really know where to go to get support if something like this has never happened to you before. So I think that my circumstances last year were quite extreme. I don't know, what do you think? To lose 95% of your income. I don't have a partner, so there's only me to pay my mortgage. My debts were building up. All my efforts were going into seeking work. So what I did, because I'm a little bit ahead of the game, because I am, for the past 10 years, I have studied with Dr. John Demartini. I started to work on the anger that I had for the politician, the anger, just the change, that my expectation of what I could do. I worked on that. And then I also took some Reiki sessions, which is like energy healing, because I realized that my energies were very low and very down. So I worked over several weeks, probably about 6 to 8 weeks, with somebody who was an expert in Reiki, and they could actually do that across Zoom. And I found that to be really helpful. I also worked with another lady who worked on sound healing. So again, that is just another tool technique, but that also seemed to, I found that I was losing my confidence because I was going for so many interviews for job roles, that and getting turned down, the rejection. It was affecting my confidence in my own abilities, believe it or not. It just seems so crazy, because usually I am very confident. And so I worked on replacing sounds in my voice that would give me more confidence. And do you know what? That worked as well. So it was a combination of things. I know the mindfulness and the meditation, I tend to hear a lot of people kind of not appreciate those areas, but I think they're very fundamentally, they're very, very healthy for your health and well-being. And I know that soulful exploration, that's very much about the journey that they want to take people on. I meditate regularly. I think I'd do more if I could do more. If I had more time, we all want more time, but it's so important to find time in your day. And so what better way than to be guided by people who are used to doing that, to help you to have that experience. I know with a group that each week that I Zoom with, I've been able to bring in some meditation, and they differ in opinion. Some people say like, oh, it doesn't do anything for me, which I don't understand, because I find it really, really like great. I love yoga, I love meditation, but each to their own. You've got to find what is the tool or technique that's going to work for you. And sometimes it can be, like I said, small things if the problem isn't so big. But when you really do have a big problem, you really do need to nuke it, so to speak. So potentially you should be considering maybe counselling, or the technique which I use is like a transformational technique based on the Demartini method, and that can like work on pretty much anything very fast. And I find that really gets you back on your feet. So when I talk about my journey, I was just dreading, I was feeling swamped with like lots of debt, fear about where I was going to get money, fear that I was going to lose my home, and what was I going to do with my company. I didn't have the best of relationships with my accountant, and I was holding on to something that I built been working on for more than 10 years, my dreams. And in the end, I had to let go. And it was the letting go, when I finally let go, that everything began to take a different shape. And it was all, I was seeing it as I had to hold on to it because I was going to lose something. But I should know more than anyone that loss, there's never a loss. There's only a change of form. So although my situation this year is totally different to last year, it's just a change of form. I haven't lost anything. In fact, I've gained like new aspects. The change, the things that, yes, some things have disappeared and gone, but now I've got new things coming in which are exciting. So I feel in a much different place. So that's something that the transformational techniques can help people with, is how to let go of whatever they're holding on to. And it's very much around the loss and grief process, because what grief is where we want to hold on as long as we can. And there is no, there's nothing bad about letting go. The sooner you let go, the sooner you can recover and be in a much more balanced place, and a much more useful place as a leader to be able to help other people. So yeah, it's about knowing where you are on that emotional wheel, that emotional barometer, as to what your tools and techniques. So what better way than to speak with family and friends, to speak with other people and share what you do. What are the things that you do? Like some people like planting. Well, what we've seen here in England is lots of people have started spending more time in their gardens. They're planting, they're decorating. The home improvement stores are just like the queues to buy products. They're running out of products on the shelves. It's been boom for them in COVID, because people have been appreciating their families more, spending more time together as families and doing things in the home, and they find that relaxing, and that's helping with the mental health. Other things can be small things like reading a book, just watching Netflix, cooking. I do a lot of cooking with my daughter. Being creative. I've got a friend she's very creative. She recycles things. She makes little gifts for everyone. There's all that simple things that can actually. It's like they're like mindfulness in themselves. Just focusing on something different, or painting, playing music. So although COVID brings lots of changes for people, and some can go through some extremes of emotions, there's also lots of positives of what it's bringing, which I know in India at the moment, God bless everyone, because they're going through a really difficult time. But I just want to say that stay strong, because we will beat this virus. You've got to keep your distance, the wash hands, face, space, really adhere to that to try and keep transmission levels down. And I think that's probably it from me. How are we doing for time, Deepanka? Is there anybody got questions they would like to ask?
Yeah, thank you, Lynn. You very well, you have covered that, how we can keep our inner strength high. Also, that how we can make the use of the opportunities of this the pandemic which has actually come. And also I like that the point which you have covered, that how we can keep our emotional well-being high, doing all the activities which we didn't got the time in throughout that, before pandemic we were busy. Now I find myself that there are a lot of times is there where I can pursue my hobbies which I have not touched upon, in so many years that. And
Yeah. What are your hobbies, Dipankar?
yeah, I like to read the books. And now at this pandemic I have read quite a number of books. Initially I used to just read some 2 3 pages and all. Again I'll find, again in the end of the week I'll find some times to read the book. Now I continuously I am in the engaged into that activity. I just loving reading those books. And not only that, even I am now spending a lot of time with the families and with my friends. I'm more active now, becoming on the social media, which I was not. I felt myself. I become more alive in this pandemic. To be very honest with you, that
Yes.
being connected with the people. Before that, I was more sunk into the all this corporate job, and this gives the enough opportunity. I guess a lot of people have also may have experienced the very similar things. It's only the mindset, as you say, Lynn, that there is a situations.
Yes.
It is not a problem. There is a situation outside our body, and this situation is not only with us. It is the situations with everybody. So together, collectively, we
Mm.
need to address those situations. And if we start worrying, then we will be bringing more worry only instead of solving the situations. So, and when you keep yourself isolated from the situations, you get a lot of ideas to solve it. When you are within the situations, you
Mm.
get succumbed into that, and you cannot see beyond anything. The moment you keep yourself outside of the situations,
Chanel,
you feel
sorry.
there are, yeah, it's okay. You feel there is a lot of opportunity due to that
Now,
situation. Pandemic has brought the opportunities for many people. There are We have actually started discovering that what is our core strength is actually, which is,
yeah.
it has not given the it is the divine has given a time to think of that, that
Yes.
I can be alive without shopping for 1 year, going outside. I can be alive.
Absolutely.
Yeah, before
Absolutely.
that, before pandemic, I was thinking like I was become like every weekend, if I don't go out and don't meet to the people and don't spend money, don't eat out, I feel like oh my god. Now I feel that I'm more alive actually. So that's so many things that which we have broken, and we
Yes.
have also established the new the boundary lines, or new, I will say, the limitations that which were there earlier, we have broken and we have come out, we become more free, I feel that.
Mm. Mm.
So
Yeah.
I'll take some questions that which has come across. uh, One is that as a leader who is responsible for his or her team, how would you suggest that they take changes in their emotion in order to set an example for their team?
So, sorry to clarify that, who, as a leader,
Yeah. Who
who
is
is responsible?
responsible for his or her team, how would you suggest that they take a change in their emotion in order to set an example for their team?
I'm not sure I understand.
Okay, it's like a question, like suppose he's a leader, that he feel he's responsible for that entire team,
Yes.
and what is that change you are expecting to that leader, that he will be set example for their team, because situation has come, this critical situation has come for everyone. Now as a
Mm.
leader, he has to set a some kind of example to in front of the team, so the team get motivated, team can be a similar productive, and that harmony and that the communication, that all can be, he can set an
So
example of it, how
I
he can.
think, yeah, I think for a leader, one of the things they can do is give an example of something that they've experienced a challenge with, whether it's in the workplace or whether it's just at home or relating to COVID, and to share their vulnerability with the team. And it's one way of really bonding with your team when they see that you're not just the leader who's demanding, efficiency and productivity, but that you're a real person who's also going through similar things to what they're going through. So when you do that in a group setting, you open up the opportunity for people to share their experience as well. So that's the great thing about retreats, is that you do a lot of that bonding, and once that bonding has happened, the productivity of your staff it just skyrockets. There's been studies done to show that productivity of engaged employees I can't remember now, you get like 25% productivity increase, because everybody's working on the same side. You've got that cohesion. So definitely, yeah. Good question.
Very well said there. Actually, when you are saying this, I can recollect somewhere I have read that. I forgot that who wrote this, that all this tough time will go, but the tough people will remain there always. So the leaders, they are will be there always.
Yes.
The people that they are showing the path to them, and that's a topic for today, that how to overcome to the setback that what we are having because of the situations today. We have another question in the same series, that how can a
Yeah.
leader or an individual bypass the indoctrination, as you mentioned, through your media channel?
Could you just repeat that again? I didn't quite catch it. How
Yeah.
can
How can a leader or an individual bypass
yeah.
the indoctrinations, as you mentioned, through your media channels?
So how can a leader, what is it about the indoctrination through
That
the
you
media?
mentioned through the some media channel, you said that it can be the bypass the indoctrinations, as you mentioned in your talk
Yeah.
somewhere. I just captured it.
Yeah. Sorry, I still haven't caught what the question is. What is it about the indoctrination through the media channels?
Yeah.
How
This
can a
what you think,
leader
how
or an
an individual
individual
can bypass the indoctrination.
bypass it? Well, you bypass it by not watching it.
Yes.
Don't watch or listen to it. Question everything. Yeah. So, for example, the vaccination, there's a lot of people questioning whether it is actually healthy or not, and I've questioned it. And do your own research about these things and make your own decisions. Don't just always rely on what you're told by the news, by the politicians or TV. But at the end of the day, you've got to make rational decisions. So I don't believe everything that I'm told, and I'll do as much research of my own so that I have a perspective on it. But when it comes down to the vaccination, I think we've seen here in the UK how we've managed to, we're starting to come out now, and hopefully in May we won't have to wear the masks anymore, and most of the population will have been vaccinated. So that is how we've managed to get through this, and I think that was probably the right thing to do, although I know that a lot of people feel it's been forced upon us, the vaccination. But yeah, you need, as a leader, you need to have independent thinking. You can't just follow what somebody is telling you because they've got an agenda or a purpose as to why they're telling you. And usually it's to spend money that way. So always question things, do your research, ask other people what they think. Yeah.
In the nowadays in the social media, you will find that there are a lot of newses are there, that so many people have died and all those things are happening.
There's a
feel
lot of
that
contradictory information.
You're so true. You said that we should be away from that all such things. I always watch the news only once in a day, and that's all. To many people, I have seen that throughout the day they are watching that news into the same news into the main channel, and then they get buggered off, and then they get into the depressions, because every time over the period and hearing again and again. I think for the being the for the emotional well-being, we should be away from the such news or such things, which is absolutely necessary. Only we should.
Yes, it's hard to get away from as well, because like if you work in corporate world, there's an expectation that you're up to date with what's happening on the news. Our mobile phones are always flashing up, the latest news stories, and you click it and then you're getting what all the papers are saying. So it is very difficult. So, we need vacations where you leave your mobile phone behind, and there's no access to technology. And yeah, it's good to understand the damage that these things can actually do to your well-being.
Yes. We actually, the technology is good thing, but we should use it very wisely. That's the things that sometimes when we use it, overdo it, we become the addict of it. And addiction of anything, it's always not good. We have another question, sir. We have some more time. And within the corporate, how can companies ensure the emotional well-being of their employees in this matter? What do you suggest, Lynn?
It depends on the size of the company, but a lot of companies run employee assistance programs. They have on their intranets, they have guidance on health and well-being. They offer employees facilities here in the United Kingdom. They do like cycle to work programs. They have employee assistance programs. So that's like a 24/7 helpline if people want to talk to somebody. And then they offer like training videos that you can watch that relate to health and well-being. I mean, because of technology, there is such a lot out there. The danger is that you get too much noise and people switch off to it when actually a lot of the stuff is good for you. That's what many companies are doing. If you're a smaller company, you don't necessarily have the funding or the resources to offer all of that to your employees. But what you can do is you can have regular catch-ups. You can have family days where you let employees and their families they can't now with COVID. That's the problem. That's the problem. There's a lot of things you can't do, but maybe on Zoom you can catch up. People are doing like quiz nights. People are even having food nights where you cook whatever dish you've got, and then you get on Zoom and you share what you're eating. So there's a lot of that sharing, probably a lot more personal aspects of your life with your work colleagues than ever before.
That's a, that's what you say is very true, Lynn. We actually need to change our lifestyle and bring more love and the compassion into this.
Yes.
And that's a mantra that we also come with the same concept in soulful exploration. That if
Mm.
we start loving ourselves, we are enough to be loved. If we
Yes.
do not love ourselves, then how do we expect that other will love to us? So first we need to start loving ourselves, and to loving ourselves, what we need to do is that we need to stop that all external chatterings, the external things. When we focus to ourselves, we can look within ourselves and can start appreciating it, that what we
Yes.
have. And that's the first beginning, that where we can raise our level of the vibrations into the higher plane. And
Yes.
this is what we do in soulful exploration. And thank you so much, Lynn, for this quick time that you have, with the short notice you have joined us from UK.
Thank you.
And for this, all our lovely viewers are there. I'm sure that they must be uh, took they must be noted a lot of things, which you have advised here, that how they can be take the opportunity from this, and how they can be up their well-being.
Yeah. I think next time I'd love them to come online and so I can see them and talk to them and they can ask their
We have
questions.
many questions there, but this is such a vast subject that we
It
cannot
is.
complete
It is.
into the 45 minutes and 60 minutes. So I could not take all the questions. I'm sorry, Lynn, but
That's okay.
surely I will be sending it to you, and then your answer I will be passing on to them. And
Yes, definitely.
thank you very much once again, Lynn, for joining us. And
Thank you so much.
thank you, lovely viewers, for staying with us, and making this, your all these appreciations, encouraging us to doing this kind of sessions, more and more. And for the next month, 4th of May, we have another very similar sessions with one lovely soul joining as a speaker. Please don't miss that one. And once again, thank you, Lynn, for joining us. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dipanka.
Thank you. Thank you.